Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today, we are zeroing in on something absolutely crucial for anyone running a private limited company: the monumental shift in Indian labor law. We're talking specifically about how the New Wage Code of 2019 and the Code on Social Security of 2020 completely redefine your payroll, your compliance, and your exit payouts, namely wages and gratuity. And to make this super practical, we're actually going to use the fresh Telangana minimum wage notification, which goes live in June 2026, as our real-world guide to figuring all this out. Okay, let's just dive right into this massive shift. For decades, running a private limited company meant navigating this chaotic, tangled web of 29 different central labor acts. We're talking about literally thousands of rules. It was, frankly, an absolute compliance nightmare. But now, the government has condensed that entire web down into just 4 streamlined labor codes. It's totally designed to make doing business easier while keeping things incredibly transparent. I mean, just look at the drop in your paperwork. It's dramatic. We're talking about going from maintaining 84 different scattered registers down to just 8 unified ones. The 181 forms you used to have to file dropped to 73, and multiple returns are now just a single electronic return. This is a massive, tangible win for your HR and management teams. It literally shifts your focus from just surviving administration to actually facilitating compliance. So here's our game plan for today. First, we're decoding the new wage. Second, we'll see minimum wages in action. Third, the exact rules of paying employees. Fourth, understanding gratuity payouts. And fifth, we'll wrap up with your compliance checklist. Let's kick things off with Section 1, decoding the new wage. Right. So before you can pay someone correctly or figure out their benefits, you have to know what actually counts as their pay. Under the new code, wages has a very strict definition. It's basically a 3-part recipe: your employee's basic pay, their dearness allowance, and any retaining allowance. That's it. It explicitly excludes a bunch of other things, like statutory bonuses, the value of housing, conveyance allowances, and your employer PF contributions. Those just don't count towards the core definition of wages anymore. And this brings us to the absolutely crucial 50% rule. This is a real game changer for how you structure payroll. You see, you can no longer just game the system by making a salary 20% basic pay and 80% allowances just to save on provident fund and gratuity. Nope. The law now mandates that all those excluded allowances, like your HRA and conveyance, cannot exceed 50% of the total remuneration. If they do, that extra amount is automatically slapped right back on and treated as core wages. Oh, and if you pay any remuneration in kind, it can't be more than 15% of total wages. Basically, at least half of their total pay has to be treated as the core wage. Period. Moving right along to Section 2, minimum wages in action. So governments categorize minimum wages using 2 main levers: the employee's skill level and the geographical zone of your business. For instance, the basic minimum wage for an unskilled worker in a rural area, let's say Zone 3, is 14,000 rupees. But if you've got a highly skilled worker in a major Zone 1 city, like the Municipal Corporation of Hyderabad, the code says their minimum basic wage is 20,000 rupees a month. Now, what's genuinely fascinating here is that local governments don't just pull these numbers out of thin air. These official minimum basic rates are directly anchored to the Consumer Price Index. Specifically, they're pegged at 443 points based on the 2001 index. This is a really smart way to ensure wages actually adapt to economic reality and the real cost of living over time. To build on that, to really protect your employees' purchasing power, you as the employer have to pay a variable dearness allowance, or VDA. The Telangana notification is super clear on this. For every single point the Consumer Price Index goes above that 443-point base, you have to increase the VDA by exactly 33 rupees and 86 paisa per point per month. What this means for you is that your payroll literally has to be actively updated every 6 months to keep up. Let's jump to Section 3, rules of paying employees. Okay, so you've hired them at a compliant wage. Awesome. Now you need to know the strict new rules for the physical act of handing over that money. Every private limited company has to officially lock in their wage periods. You can choose daily, weekly, fortnightly, or monthly. But here's the catch: the deadlines are absolutely non-negotiable. If you run a standard monthly payroll, the money has to hit your employee's bank account before the end of the 7th day of the following month. So no more casually delaying payroll until the 10th or 15th. But listen to this, because the timeline accelerates like crazy when someone leaves. If an employee resigns, gets dismissed, or is terminated, you now have exactly 2 working days to settle all their due wages. 2 days. That means your managers, your HR, and your finance teams need to be incredibly tightly coordinated to clear everything almost immediately.
And what about extra hours? Well, if your employee is working beyond their standard designated hours, which is usually 8 hours a day, compliance says you owe them overtime. And under the new rules, that overtime is strictly 2x. You have to compensate them at exactly double their standard wage rate. Plus, any fractional amounts of pay have to be rounded off to the nearest 50 paise. They really tighten the screws here.
Next up, Section 4, Understanding Gratuity Payouts. Let's talk about the exit phase, specifically the big updates to the Code on Social Security regarding gratuity. Now, traditionally, gratuity was always this reward for long-term loyalty, right? And for your standard full-time folks, that hasn't changed. They still need 5 years of continuous service to get that payout when they leave. But the new codes introduce a massive progressive update for fixed-term contract employees. If you hire someone on a fixed-term contract, they are now eligible for gratuity after completing just 1 single year of service. That's a huge shift. So when the time comes to calculate that exit payout, whether it's the 1-year mark for a contract worker or 5 years for a regular employee, the math centers around the number 15. You owe the employee 15 days of wages for every single completed year of service they gave to your company. Just keep in mind this is subject to maximum limits set by the central government. And much like that strict 2-day rule for settling regular wages, you're on the clock for gratuity too. Once that final amount is calculated upon their exit, you, as the employer, are legally obligated to complete the entire payout within a tight 30-day window.
Finally, we're at Section 5, your compliance checklist.
We've covered definitions, minimums, payment rules, and gratuity. Let's tie the whole shebang together into an actionable checklist for your operations team. This framework is straight from the official handbook, and it beautifully segments your tasks. You've got foundational stuff like getting your single registration, your monthly recurring tasks, your annual audits, and your event-based triggers. This clean matrix completely replaces the old nightmare of tracking 84 different registers across 29 separate acts. Think of this as the monthly heartbeat of your business. Every single month, your HR and finance departments have to run like clockwork. You're legally required to pay wages before the 7th. You have to deduct and deposit EPF and ESIC contributions. And remember, do that based on that new 50% wage rule we talked about. You also need to issue proper wage slips to everyone and update those 8 unified registers. But then there's the unexpected stuff, the event-based compliance. These triggers are incredibly time-sensitive. Got a new recruit? You must issue a formal appointment letter. Workplace accident? That has to be reported within a 24 to 72-hour window, no exceptions. And as we highlighted earlier, exits mean tight deadlines. Regular wages settled in 2 days, and gratuity paid out within 30 days. Well, we've definitely covered a lot of ground today, unpacking exactly how wages and gratuity work for private limited companies under these new codes. Knowing how much friction is being removed from the system, slashing your paperwork from 84 registers down to a super manageable 8 is huge. So the real question I want to leave you with is this: how will your company leverage this newfound administrative efficiency and saved time to build a better, more rewarding workplace for your teams? Think about it. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.